On last weekend, the state was hit with those severe storms that left hundreds of thousands of people without power. Especially hit hard was the Tulsa area. A state of emergency was eventually declared by the Senate Pro Tem as acting governor. And we actually have Senator Treat with us today, live in studio. We're going to dive into that. Plus, we'll talk a little bit of the special session as well. So Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat live here. Thanks so much for being here.
Shelby, thanks for having me.
It's been a busy couple days for you.
It has.
You know, you're from the Tulsa area. So when you went there to see kind of what had happened, I mean, walk me through when you were touring the devastation.
You know, to be honest, I was up with my parents in Catoosa and driving back on Monday and saw the devastation firsthand. I was at a Quick Trip and saw people coming in and just grabbing 6 bags of ice at a time and just talking about trying to save their food. I saw fuel lines and actually called my chief of staff and said, "Hey, is the governor in town?" He said, "No, I don't think so, but I think the lieutenant governor is." So I thought, okay, we'll just keep going down. And then Tuesday I found out that I was actually acting governor starting Monday night, and so declared a state of emergency as soon as I knew that I was acting governor.
Yeah, it kind of led into my next question, was kind of how that timeline unfolded from when you found out to declaring that. So what do you think happened here in terms of, like, was there a miscommunication, or like how did we get here to where we are now?
There's just a complete lack of communication.
Okay.
I don't think there was anything nefarious. I just think it was an oversight. Obviously, no one knew we were going to have the storm, but the communication needs to improve.
And we've talked to the AG a little bit about how we can avoid this situation in the future. He mentioned maybe 2 different scenarios, right? One being allowing the governor to issue states of emergency when he's traveling, or the person like you being notified earlier. Would you sign off on legislation?
Yeah, so we need to improve it. The first would require a constitutional change, so that's a little bit more difficult. It would require a vote of the people, either through initiative petition or legislative referendum. The second's easier, and that's what's traditionally happened. Up until last March or so, we always got communicated to before if we were acting governor, or the lieutenant governor was out of town as well. So I think just improved communication is the key. It's really the key to most things in life.
So since the disaster declaration was made, what has that allowed to happen?
Oversized trucks coming in, people who are licensed in other states to participate here, people who maybe not have an Oklahoma Tax Commission allowance to do business in Oklahoma to do it, and also for the city of Tulsa to start getting public assistance applications with FEMA to hopefully get some money in there to help reimburse for the costs they've incurred.
Do you think because of that delay in, you finding out you were acting governor, making the declaration, did that impact restoration efforts, like starting earlier, do you think?
It impacted the ability to get public assistance there. I can tell you Mayor Bynum up in Tulsa, the emergency management team, the county commissioners, the whole gamut of local officials up there, tribal officials, they all were swift to action. So I think their actions saved lives and also got relief where it needed. This action was necessary to get the public assistance and also to make sure what those people were doing was lawful and no one had any troubles.
Did you notice a lot of like severe damage while you were there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of huge trees, 80, 100-year-old trees on people's houses, fence lines in the street. There were still neighborhood streets cut off yesterday. Saw a lot of dark rooms, so power was still obviously off to quite a few of those. PSO's done a good job. They were about 200,000 without power, 205,000 3 days ago. Then it went down to about 100,000, 93,000 yesterday. And I heard right before I came on here, I think y'all were reporting it was 60-something thousand. But that's still 60,000 people that don't have power to be able to refrigerate their food, to be able to, some medicines need to be refrigerated, and temperatures are high. The rain yesterday actually slowed down some of those efforts, but it also provided temperature relief for people who were suffering on that.
Just to wrap up this kind of topic here, just again, tell our viewers what you think could be improved upon in the future so we avoid something like this again.
Simple communication. It's an easy email to between staff or text. We all have each other's cell phones. Just, hey, I'm going to be out of state, just FYI. Hopefully these disasters don't happen, but we live in Oklahoma. Natural disasters are not foreign to us. We need to be prepared.
Yeah, we know that they can kind of happen at any time of year, really.
Yes.
We're finding. Let's switch to the special session here. I mean, is a special session happening, you think?
Yes,
okay.
So we'll be in on Monday at 10 a.m. in the Senate to consider overrides on the compacts that the governor vetoed, the compact extensions. So a lot of compacts on tobacco and on tribal tags have expired or are set to expire at the end of this year. We're trying to give another year to be able to negotiate between the state and tribes to be able to find a mutually beneficial agreement to help Oklahomans, whether they be tribal members or non-tribal members.
Let's talk about tax cuts a little bit, though. Obviously, the governor has come out and said that he thought the budget didn't go far enough with some of the tax cuts that he wanted. What do you think will be accomplished during the special session on that front?
We've got, well, tax cuts aren't part of the special session. So the special session call limited to 3 items, budget related, the compacts, and just being able to override vetoes. And so that's not in the call right now. He could call a special session. He has not done that thus far. He did last year. Since I've been in the legislature, we've had a $600 million shortfall, an $800 million shortfall, and a $1.3 billion shortfall based on tax policy that was passed before I got there. I just want to make sure, I've got 1 more year left in the legislature. I want to make sure anything we do, I'm a small government conservative. I want lower taxes, but we've got to do it in a prudent fashion that doesn't compromise future budgets. We'll talk about it. We're open to the conversation. Hopefully we don't do it in special, because we really need to see all this federal money flow through the ARPA dollars and all that to see what our real base economy is.
Okay, going to be another busy week for you.
Yes.
So we appreciate you making some time for us, just kind of clearing some stuff up for our viewers. We know that the weekend storms hit a lot of people hard, so we really appreciate your time today, and as acting governor as well.
Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you very much.